You know that feeling when one day you look at your home and suddenly think, how in the world did we accumulate 30 plastic bags that we don't need? Why do I even have so much stuff? It was one of those days that made me change my relationship with stuff. Not only what I got rid of, but also what I continued buying. You could say I became more intentional with it all. And while I completely stopped buying some items, I still buy items like the one in this box. Oh wait, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's start by going through those 20 things I no longer buy. Number 1 on my list is water filters. I stopped buying water filters. I used to think that water filters would make my water healthier for you. Well, I looked into it a bit more and actually I realized it doesn't really do that much or like as much as we think. And you know, everyone's free to do their own research and decide for their own family. But for us, I realized that usually water filters are especially useful if you're in an area where the water might not be great or it might have a bad taste you don't like. But I don't mind the tap water here. I'm fine with the taste of it. So I don't feel like having a plastic water filter is useful for us anymore. Just keeping the water in a plastic water filter, is that actually better for you than just having it run straight from the tap into your glass? You also have one extra thing to take care of, right? You have to clean that water filter, make sure it's clean, otherwise it kind of defeats the purpose. And you have to change the filters a lot in it, which is a lot of plastic waste. And I know there are options out there, but for us, we decided it's just better to get rid of it altogether, and we just no longer buy water filters. Tap water is great for us. And also I read that actually they're not always the healthiest for you. They can actually strip away some of those minerals from water. Yeah, there's probably a whole debate going on about this topic, but we simply stopped using ours. 2 is lots of random spices for different recipes. You know how you get a magazine or a new recipe book and then you look through the recipes and a lot of them have some spices that you've never heard of before, you've never tried before. But I would go out, buy that spice, use it for that particular recipe, and then never end up using it again until either it expired or I finally decided to get rid of it, you know, 2 years later because I was just not using that spice. And so I decided I'm not going to do that anymore. Nowadays I kind of use my usual recipes, you know, my tried and true. Because I'm in a busy season of life with 2 young children, I don't really have a lot of time to experiment with recipes. Maybe one day in the future I will, but at this point in my life I'm just sticking to the spices that I know and we love and we use all the time. Number 3 is plastic water bottles. I try my best to always take with me the travel, you know, reusable bottle that we have. It's a stainless steel one, and I just fill it up whenever I need to and take it with me. Yeah, so very rarely do we actually use plastic water bottles nowadays. And along the same lines, number 4 is plastic bags. We have a few of those reusable carrier bags that we take with us whenever we go to the shop because I don't want to be buying plastic bags unless I really have to. And even so, we still get things sometimes delivered in plastic bags. We still get some of our food in plastic bags or containers. So I feel like plastic can be kind of inevitable, but I try not to get those plastic carrier bags anymore because that's something I can control and something I can make a bit of an effort to not buy anymore and just kind of reduce my use of plastic that way. And I'm not saying I'm the most environmentally friendly, you know, I'm just doing my best and trying to be more sustainable, but you know, none of us are perfect, are we? Number 5, cleaning products for every single surface in our home. I used to have an under sink area stuffed with different products, one for a window, one for a mirror, one for wood surfaces, one for glass surfaces, one for a TV, one for the bathroom, and the list can go on and on and on. It's just so many different products for all of these different surfaces in our home, when in reality we don't really need that many. Nowadays my kind of basics are, we have one surface cleaner. It's a Purdy and Fig cleaner. It works really well. We use in the kitchen, to dust around the house, just anywhere really. And then I have another Purdy and Fig cleaner, which is the bathroom one. So that's a surface spray to use in the bathroom. I use that on the sink, in the shower. That's a lime scale one, and it's also really good for mirrors and windows. So you can sometimes find products like that that have a multi-purpose around your home, and you don't need to have 30 different products under your sink. So for me, those two surface sprays are pretty much my go-to. I have a toilet bowl cleaner and a floor cleaner, and those are kind of my main cleaning products. Simplifying your cleaning products can actually make such a big difference. It can make your cleaning so much quicker as well. And I try my best to go for non-toxic products because I have small children, and also for myself, you know, for our family in general, I just try to make those choices whenever I can. And I think I have a 10% discount code for Pretty and Thick still going, so that will be linked in the description box for you. Moving on to number 6 is lots of knickknacks around the home. You know, all of those little home decor pieces or just those random knickknacks that you see in the shop, they're usually very cheap and they're kind of an impulse buy. They look cute on the shelf, and so you feel like that would be a nice addition to your home. I used to feel like that, but then I realized stuffing all of my shelves with knickknacks is actually gonna make, for one, cleaning so much harder, and it also adds a lot to the visual clutter. Everybody has their different thresholds for visual clutter. Some people are affected by it more than others. I feel like for myself, I like to have clear surfaces as much as possible. It helps me feel more calm, and it also speeds up my cleaning process, which is so helpful when you've got little toddlers and children running around. New books. Don't get me wrong, I still buy books, I still read them, but I try my best to buy not new, but rather look for pre-loved books. I can find most of the books I want to read these days either at my local library, or I can buy them on Vinted pre-loved, like this one for example. And so I try not to buy new books unless I really have to. Like if I can't find it anywhere, then obviously I would buy the new one, but for the most part I try to stick to pre-loved books. Number 8 is uncomfortable shoes. These days, I don't really buy any sort of uncomfortable shoes that I don't like to wear, anything that rubs my feet, anything that feels too tight, just uncomfortable in general. I just don't have the patience, the energy for that, and I feel like there's no point in wasting money on something like that. Comfy shoes are my go-to. And going along with that, number 9 is clothes that I don't necessarily love, but they're cheap. You know, when you go in the shop and you see something that you feel like it's meh, maybe, you know, it doesn't quite fit right, or maybe it doesn't quite flatter your body, but you think, well, it's really cheap, so I might as well buy it anyway. I stopped buying items like that, and I find that being more intentional with my wardrobe actually helps me get dressed in the morning with greater ease, and all of the outfits that I do wear actually make me feel really good. You know, those clothes that you put them on and they just make you smile, they give you a lot of confidence. That just makes a big difference to my day. And so all of these items that I don't truly love, I'm not gonna buy anymore. And speaking of clothes, I also stopped buying sales in general. Yes, I stopped shopping for sales because I used to go in the shop and just, you know, where there was a big sign that says 50% off or clearance or whatever it might be, and it would be so enticing for you to go and buy something, even maybe you didn't really need it, or maybe you didn't really like it, but because it was on sale, I would buy items like that. And then we all know what ends up happening with those items, right? We don't truly value them. Sometimes we don't truly need them, and they end up just cluttering our homes, and those items are usually the first ones to go when we do a big declutter. These days I try to buy, you know, a bit better quality, and this doesn't necessarily mean super expensive, but if I do want to get a bit of a bargain or I want to buy pre-loved, I will always go on places like Vinted to look for clothes, and I find that you can get some really good clothes for, you know, a better price than you would maybe new, and it's also a bit better for the environment, right? Just buying pre-loved from somebody else rather than buying everything new. I also stopped using fabric softener, which I think might be surprising, but it has simplified my laundry routine quite a bit. It's one less product I have to buy, and I find that I don't really miss it. It was, I think, last year or so, I wanted to do this experiment to see if we could get on without fabric softener, because I noticed on a lot of labels in my clothing, it said you shouldn't use fabric softener. So you shouldn't use it on jeans, on, you know, your athletic leggings, like for example on my Lululemon leggings, all of those. You shouldn't use it on towels. And so there are a lot of different items that you shouldn't use fabric softener on, because it's actually not going to do any service to that fabric. And I realized in almost every single load, I actually had at least one or a few of those items in. So it would have been better not to use the fabric softener. I decided to just quit it completely, and I think it's been over a year now since I last used it, and I definitely do not feel like I miss my fabric softener, at least for now. Number 12 is getting my nails done. I just do my nails easily at home, usually every Sunday or, you know, whenever I get a chance, but I try to do it every Sunday, and it's just very simple. My nail kit is also very simplified. I just have, you know, nail polish remover and 2 nail polish bottles, and that's it, because I realized, if I'm being really honest with myself, like in the past few years, my 2 colors that I always go for on my nails were pale pink, which is what I have on now, and white, and that's about it. I used to have all these other colors that I never really gravitated towards, and so for me it's just keeping those 2 nail polishes I love, nail polish remover, and obviously nail clippers, but that's it. One other thing I used to do, and I completely quit that too, is getting eyelash extensions. Yes, I used to get eyelash extensions. Well, it wasn't really recent, it was like a few years ago. I did kind of like the look of them, but for one, it can be quite pricey. 2, it actually takes quite a long time to sit there to get them filled in, so it would be probably like 2 hours every few weeks to go and get them refilled, and then it also damaged my natural eyelashes, so I decided to completely quit that. Just regular mascara works really well for me, and that's just one thing I decided to stop spending money on. Number 14 is I stopped buying new makeup until I finished the previous one that I was using. So if I'm looking for eyeshadow, I'm gonna wait until I'm finished with that product, or, you know, it expires or I no longer use it, until I go out and buy a new one. If I've got a mascara I'm using, I'm not gonna buy a new one until this one runs out. This way, this kind of one in, one out process helps me, you know, be more intentional with my buys and not go into the shop and be tempted by all of these lovely products around, because I know I have already got an eyeshadow palette, I don't need another one. And when this one runs out, I can also be a bit more intentional with buying my next one, rather than just going and buying, you know, an impulse one that I see in the shop that looks lovely. It saves me money and it helps me be more intentional, and it's less wasteful because it means I, you know, use up more of these products until I go out and buy a new one. And similarly for toiletries, right? So shampoo, shower gel, things like this, I only go out and buy a new one once I run out of this one. It's such a simple rule to follow, but it's so effective. Number 16 is perfume. I actually realized once I had my second baby that I don't actually use perfume much anymore, you know, just basic deodorant. Maybe it's because I always have, you know, a child, a toddler, a baby attached to me, and so I don't really like having heavy perfume on. So that's one thing I completely stopped wearing. Obviously everybody's different, everybody's lifestyle is different, but for myself in this stage of life, I just don't want to wear perfume. Maybe later down the line when the kids are a bit older, I might. By the way, if you're finding this video helpful, I actually have a little surprise for you in the description box. It's my free declutter checklist that you can download completely free to help you declutter your home, go through the products, have a checklist to go through. There have been over 30,000 people who downloaded this checklist, and lots of people said it's been super helpful, so that will be in the description box for you. Number 17 is constantly upgrading, you know, the new technology, buying a new phone, buying a new laptop, all of this new technology. Once it comes out, it can be so tempting to get just the latest and greatest. I think I was never very much into this anyway, even in the past, but it's just something I'm trying to be more intentional of. My iPhone is not the newest, it's quite old actually, and I also have a Fitbit that I've had for quite a few years, which, to be honest, my Fitbit is kind of on its last leg, I think. If you have any suggestions for good, you know, fitness trackers, let me know in the comments below, because I might be on the market for that soon, but for now it still works, so I'm gonna keep it. And I would love to hear from you if you can resonate to any of these or any other items that you stopped buying. Let me know in the comments. Number 18 on my list is lots of planners and stationery, and sometimes we feel like if I need to get organized, I just need to buy the right planner and then everything will just fall into place. But it's usually not about that. Oftentimes it's just about changing these little habits that we have that, you know, kind of boost our productivity. One book I found really helpful on this topic is Atomic Habits. I always recommend this book, but it's such a good one, and that has actually helped me with my productivity a lot more than any planners have. These days I actually use a digital planner. I use ClickUp to organize my online business, my life, just everything that I need to organize, this content I'm creating on YouTube. But I no longer buy a lot of planners or stationery because I just find I don't really need it. Number 19 is lots of throwaway toys. You know, those very cheap plastic toys that usually end up getting broken the same day or the next day. They don't really play that much with them. Those kinds of toys feel a bit pointless to buy, and so I try to be more intentional about that, and we just stopped buying toys like that in general. The next thing on my list is souvenirs. You know, you go traveling and you see these cute little items. Unless it's an item that maybe I actually have a purpose for, or it can become a part of our decor, like it can fit nicely into our space, then no, I'm not gonna buy random little knickknacks to put on my fridge, like fridge magnets, all of those little items. They don't really add value to my life, and I prefer just having pictures as memories, you know, digital pictures on my phone as memories of all the lovely places we've visited and experiences we've had. But I don't feel the need to buy all of the little souvenirs. They usually end up just cluttering the space, and yeah, it's just not something that we love to do. But yes, even as a minimalist, we still buy things, like a takeaway coffee, or getting my hair done, or investing in experiences or new hobbies. You know, just those things that bring us joy. I think the key here, at least for me, is to be a bit more intentional and just curb those impulse buys a bit more. This piano has been on our wish list for quite a while now. My son's been taking piano lessons and now he has one to practice on at home. And I used to play piano a little bit when I was a teenager, and I always had in the back of my mind that one day I will play again. And I think that one day is today. But don't get me wrong, I'm a complete beginner here again and I have no idea what I'm doing.